I have a voice.
This is the world through my eyes.
Where people and events impact us.
And have the power to change.
I am one of those people.
I am one of those people.
I will never stop learning.
And never stop questioning.
This is my promise.
I have a voice.
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 And this is our forum.
Hello and welcome to The Forum. I'm your guest host, Governor Jack Markell. On today's show, we are taking a global view. We're going to speak with some Red Clay students about the changing world economy and how that impacts their future. To be more specific, the globalizing economy and the emergence of digital technologies have profound implications for the people of Delaware, for our country, and for these young people. You know, in the global war for talent, jobs will be created where entrepreneurs can find a workforce with the abilities that they need to grow and succeed. And they'll be created where governments invest in the necessary education and preparedness of their people. The key factor in our success is whether our education system adapts to prepare a skilled workforce that can thrive in our times. It calls for some major shifts, like raising academic standards, and it also calls for innovations that address common obstacles that students face. We know that many students capable of succeeding in college, particularly low-income students, don't attend college, or they enrolled at an institution with low graduation rates when they could get into a better school if they only applied. In Delaware, we found that by allowing all students to take the SAT for free during the school day and by providing them the materials and assistance they need in the application process, including application fee waivers, we can make a significant difference. And last year, all of our college-ready students applied. The facts also tell us that we need to produce more graduates in the STEM field: science, technology, engineering, and math. There are a lot of job postings available for students with those skills. And so we can greatly increase the opportunities for our youth if we expose them to these fields. Of course, that's not the only answer. In an increasingly globalized world, one where we are impacted by what's going on in countries all over the world, the advantage of speaking multiple languages can be enormous. And this year, about 1,400 of Delaware's kindergartners and first graders and second graders are learning half of their subjects. They spend half their school day learning in Chinese or in Spanish. And by participating in one of our 11 world language immersion programs, like the William C. Lewis Language Immersion School here in Red Clay, these youth will be proficient by 4th grade, and they'll be able to pass the AP language test by 9th grade. Now today we are joined by 4 promising Red Clay students in their junior and senior years of high school. Welcome to Bima Ampansa and Anthony Christopher from AI High School, and from the Conrad Schools of Science, Samantha Stocksdale and Demetrius Thorne. So welcome to all of you. Bima, I hope I got your name pretty close.
It was really good.
Really good?
Yeah.
Well, thank you. So we're going to start. I have a few questions for you guys, and then I know you've got some questions for me, and we can just open it up and have a conversation.
Sounds good.
So in the introduction, I mentioned some of the programs that Delaware has implemented to help students prepare for college, such as the waiving of application fees and the opportunity for all students to take the SATs. Tell me a little bit about your experience taking the SAT. How important do you think that is, and just your general reaction to the fact that in Delaware, taxpayers actually pay for all juniors to take the SAT during the school day, so you don't have to come in on the weekend. Why don't we start with you, Bima?
All right then. So my experience taking the SATs was my school provided after-school tutoring, like the SATs, like maybe 2 months, and then we took SATs, and I scored pretty high, so I'm really happy about that.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
How about you?
Me, I think it was good for me to take the first one free, so that way I could like pay for the other one. Like I took 2. I just took the one recently on September 9th. And I think I did pretty good on it, and like school prepared me by the SAT classes and the after-school tutoring.
Like they said, my school also offered the SAT prep classes after school, and that definitely helped me because by April, when we took the free SAT test, I was able to get a 2050, which is way higher than I was expecting to get. And I just took the SAT again, actually this weekend, that just passed. So I feel as though like my school definitely prepared me, and without my school, I have no idea what score I would have been able to get.
I would agree with that. We have a pre-SAT like prep class. So I haven't taken the SAT yet, but I've taken PSATs, and I feel pretty prepared for the test.
And why do you guys think that we've gone to the trouble and the expense? Unlike, I mean, most states don't do it this way. You know, most states, the students, you know, you have to pay yourselves, you have to come in on the weekend. Why do you think we go to the trouble and expense of actually taxpayers have to foot this bill? Why do you think we do that? And is it a good idea? I think it's so that a student's economic standpoint has no effect on their ability to get into a good university, because there's definitely bright students coming from all walks of life, upper class, middle class, lower class, and if they're able to take the SAT and get their application into these good universities, and that just basically levels the playing field.
Yeah, we used to like seeing our potential and letting us know that if we take this test, we can get into a college. Maybe that's better than we expected.
Yes, I believe like a lot of students who you may not think have bright minds, but they really have bright minds but don't try.
I think just the opportunity in general will help you out, and, like make you realize maybe you like really have potential to go to like a really good school that you never realized before. So yeah.
Well, it's good to hear you guys get it, and that's really true because, you know, first of all, I would say college is not for everybody, and we're doing a lot of work to make sure if you want to go directly into the workforce, that there are job opportunities available. And of course, even if you don't want to get a 4-year or 2-year degree, we do tell kids that they're going to have ongoing training throughout their career. But there are a lot of students, as you guys said, who may be good students and come from families that don't think they could ever afford it, or they don't really think about it being within their reach. And we found a lot of these students are actually, you know, going on to college, which is pretty exciting. Tell us a little bit about you know, how you think over the, you know, the next 10 years, given the way the economy is changing and everything else, what kinds of changes should we be thinking about in terms of what schools need to be doing differently in the future?
I think that like the STEM program, that really helps a lot. Like that's basically preparing students for the future with technology and business and all that.
Anybody else?
I think that schools should start educating students about agricultural business and agricultural technologies, because in the coming years we're going to have another population boom, and then there's going to be a need for vast amounts of food to feed this grand population, and especially with Delaware having a great agricultural presence, especially in the Kent and Sussex counties. I think students definitely need to maybe consider going to school specifically for agricultural business or agricultural engineering or something like that.
Yeah, that is an important industry for us.
I think a personal finance class or something to prepare us for after we graduate and know how to handle those situations would be good too.
Okay.
Because that's not really something that we have. So I think that would help you.
Okay.
I would say maybe like a study abroad program for like more students. We already have it like established, but I feel like students going like studying abroad, like they would have like a better insight about the world around them, and like get a better understanding about the world. Yeah.
And what do you think? What do you think students? By the way, I should tell the audience these are not the prepared questions. I'm sort of going off script, and you guys are doing a great job so far. What do you think people learn when they go abroad, or just, you know, have a more global view?
Well, I know like some of my friends, like I'm basically like I'm not I'm not American, but I'm an immigrant sort of, but I come from Ghana. But I go to Ghana like a lot recently because like I'm getting older. I want to get like a better surrounding what my world's like over there. And so I feel like when I go there, I get like a better like what's the world's going on over there. Maybe like I'll have it like a little better over here in the USA.
Okay.
And so basically I feel like if others had the same opportunity that I had, like they gain from that.
Okay. Yeah. Do you guys talk much amongst your peers about you know, what you're going to do after high school, and, you know, what do those conversations sound like?
I think right now it's where are you going to go to college or stuff like that. What are you interested in? We have pathways, so I know a lot of us are deciding whether we like our pathways or not.
What's your pathway?
I'm in physical therapy.
Does everybody have to choose a pathway? Is that how it works?
Yes.
Okay. And so can you explain what that pathway includes, like while you're still in high school?
So for this year, we are learning how to do athletic training. So we're learning taping, and we're just finishing how to tape a sprained ankle.
Okay.
And we are required 5 hours of like watching our athletic trainer at school. And then next year we'll actually go to clinicals. So we have a double block for this class, and
Okay.
we'll go out off-site and work at
Okay.
a facility.
How about you? Tell me about the conversations you have with your peers about what happens after high school.
I feel like the conversation of what happens after high school is what me and my friends talk about most, because we're really excited to finally get out of high school, get out in the real world. But the main question right now is what university, where are we going to go, because everywhere has different opportunities, but we just want to make sure that wherever we go, whether it's a city or whether it's a suburban area, that the opportunities will be the best fit for us.
And without naming schools, what are you most interested in finding? And like if you had all your you had lots of choices, without naming which school, what's going to convince you to go to one place or the other?
Well, personally, I'm not a city person, so a lot of city schools are out for me. Even though they might be fantastic, it's just not the best fit for me. I definitely want to go to a school with a strong business program, and I'm also really interested in physics, so I might maybe go somewhere engineering undecided, somewhere that has a lot of strong engineering programs, things like that.
How about you?
Kind of what he said, like we're talking about what colleges. Like me and my friends were all sports players, so like most of us want to go to school for football, so we're trying to find a school that has our pathway in a good football team.
What's your pathway?
I want to do sports management or business management, somewhere in the business side, and then I just like football is my love. So.
Okay. And how about you?
Same story as his. I'm going for track maybe. My pathway is also tracks. It's also pharmacy, and so I'm looking for schools that give medicine, business as well.
Okay, cool.
And marketing as well.
All right. One thing I've learned, I have 2 kids. I have a 21-year-old and a 19-year-old, and I have figured out that whenever I meet a high school senior these days, I never ask them where they're thinking about going, because my understanding is that's the only question that any adult ever asks a high school senior, and kids get sick of the question. Is that a good strategy?
Yeah.
Definitely true.
Yeah.
Although I think I did ask you, so I apologize for that before we went on the air. Well, I know you guys have some questions, so why don't we just open it up and let's hear your questions.
One question I had was, what skills are you looking for when hiring someone?
Well, that's a great question. So a lot, of course, depends upon the specific job, and it's important that people have, especially further on in their careers and the more high level the job, that they have some specific industry knowledge. But it's something I think about now because I have a daughter who's a senior in college, and when I'm thinking about hiring somebody right out of school, what I am looking for, number one, is somebody who is a good team player. Somebody who is humble, and to me, humble means a willingness to learn and a recognition that they don't have all the answers. Somebody who, that being said, somebody who is willing to stand up for their conviction. We have debates all the time within my office about what the right approach is on a particular issue, and I always look for people who, have a point of view, can express their point of view, can back it up with real data and information, but then once the decision is made, we're all on a team. So those are some of the key things. A lot is, is this somebody that I would enjoy working with? Will they be able to get along with other members of the team? Are they eager to learn? Do they want to work hard? Do they really want to contribute? Those are some of the most important things I'm looking for.
My question for you is, what role do you think that less developed countries will play in the future of the global economic market? And do you think that there should be a greater focus on these less developed countries, such as a few countries in Africa, that since they're typically overlooked in a high school classroom setting?
Great question. My view is that in fact, this was my major in college. My major in college was Third World Studies. And it's something that I'm very interested in, and I think that these countries will play an increasingly important role. I mean, just think about today and the importance in our global economy of places like China and India and Brazil and a lot of others. And 30 years ago, they really were not mentioned very much in terms of playing an important role in the global economy, but that's changed. And one of the reasons it's changed is they've invested so much in the quality of their schools and workforce and the like. And I think that's going to continue to happen. And I think Africa specifically, some of the fastest growing economies in the entire world are in Africa. And Senator Coons, who has been the chair of the Africa Subcommittee in the United States Senate, each year hosts a big conference in Wilmington about Africa. This past year, President Clinton actually came to speak at it. And I think a lot of people recognize that Africa has a very bright future. Now, the challenge is people have been saying that Africa has a bright future for about 3 decades. And so far, it's been difficult for that actually to become real. But I mean, there are a lot of people from Africa who have moved to Delaware, generally very well educated and doing really helping to build our economy. And I know they have a real interest in supporting the development of the economies back home. So my sense is a lot will happen. I think we live in a time now, of course, where Ebola it has dominated the narrative about Africa, but I think there's so much going on, and a lot of it's positive in terms of the African economy. That being said, Africa continues to have its challenges. You think about the group in Nigeria that has been very, really troublesome for that country, and I think a lot of those, some of those movements still exist.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you plan on getting the SAT free for 11th graders in different states other than Delaware?
Well, that's up to those states. And so, my focus as governor is just to focus on Delaware. And I'd say even here, it's not uniformly popular. There were plenty of people who said that's a mistake. You should only, if somebody doesn't want to go to college, you shouldn't, do that. And I understand that point. But I also understand, sort of as you guys were saying, there are a lot of kids who probably think, I don't think I'm going to be able to go to college. I can't afford it. And so what's the point in my taking the SAT? But then they take the SAT and they score pretty well. And then all of a sudden their eyes are open. Wow, if I can figure out a way to pay for this, maybe I can go. And then, we've got a big effort underway. Every high school senior, hopefully you guys, those of you who are seniors received it already, our scholarship compendium. We have the website, DelawareGoesToCollege.org, which has a lot of scholarship information. We have the application fee waivers for some students. So whether other states decide to follow or not will be up to them, but I think this is the right approach for Delaware.
Okay, my question is, what advice did you give your children in applying to college?
Well, first of all, I always try to be a little careful about how much advice I give, because sometimes when I do, they like to do the opposite. I don't know if that's true in your houses with your families. But we really left it up to them. And, I think the most important thing was to say, apply to some stretch schools, but also apply to some schools that you're pretty confident you can get into, because sometimes you apply to the stretch schools, it doesn't work out. But generally the research says you ought to apply to 4 or more, because that significantly increases the chances that you'll be accepted. That's number 1. And number 2, make your decision based on where you feel the fit is best for you. Don't do it based on, sort of extraneous factors, but where do you think you'd be the most comfortable? Because if you go to a place where you're the most comfortable, it's more likely that you're going to really dig in and get engaged and learn. And also to challenge yourself and take classes that are out of your comfort zone. And so my son is a freshman now in college, and I'm really, he's taking Chinese and he's taking computer science, and he generally has not loved taking languages before, but he wanted to try this and he loves it. And he'd never really had computer science, and it's really hard, but he loves it. And so I think, this is a time in life where you can try new things, and I encourage them to do that. It's also good, I have to say, if they, I encourage them to take as many science classes as they can, because that is where a lot of the jobs are, and it's. But for me, I was not a very strong science student when I was in school. I wish I had been a stronger science student and had a better background there. Do you guys have any other questions? And even if you haven't prepared any, we're just having a conversation here.
I have another question.
Okay.
How do you think that political turmoil in foreign countries such as Russia and other foreign countries will have on the global economy as a whole? And do you think that Delaware's economy will feel any impact from foreign relations?
Yes. So first of all, it's an interesting question. There is actually a big impact on the local economy in terms of what's going on around the world. And as an example, when, with Russia invading Ukraine, and, that was, really, I think, a really bad thing. And then, with the response from America and Europe in terms of, sanctions and the like. So where does that lead, and what does it mean for a state like Delaware? Well, what it can mean is that, okay, we have a lot of people in Delaware who work in the chicken industry, chicken processing. Well, when other countries, if we engage in this, this kind of exchange, and other countries say, well, we're not going to import chicken anymore from the United States. We think, well, that's like way up here and it doesn't really affect us. Well, the fact is that can affect real workers, our neighbors right here in Delaware. And so I think there's a pretty significant impact as other countries slow their economies down for whatever reason, maybe because of these sanctions, maybe because they're in their own disputes. If their economies slow down, it may mean less opportunities for Delaware companies to export. It may mean there's less likelihood that foreign countries or foreign companies will decide to invest in this country. And even in Delaware, we have a lot of employers that are based in other countries. There's, for example, in Delaware City, there's a company called Billcare. They make pharmaceutical packaging, and that company is based in India. We have a couple companies in Delaware that employ Delawareans that are based in Taiwan. We have one that's based in Japan. So we are very much a part of this global economy, and issues that come up around the world can have a definite impact on us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I kind of have a question going off of that. Is there a plan, or could there be a class to teach multicultural interactions, like teaching culture or tradition, so when you travel to somewhere else what's acceptable?
Well, I think it's a great idea, and of course the selection of courses is really up to the local districts and local schools, and I would encourage you to talk with the local leadership, and if they're my sense, having talked to a lot of principals and teachers and administrators in Delaware, is that they want to be very responsive to the needs and the interests of the students. And I think if there are a number of you who have an interest in that, and you go to the administration and say, we're really interested in learning this, do you think we could put a course together? My guess is they might be willing to do it. It can take a little time, but I think it's a great idea, and I'd encourage you to have that conversation with them. You have any other questions?
My question's really off topic,
okay.
But I was watching the news last night, and there was a man who was from the Navy SEALs, and he said that he killed Osama bin Laden. How do you feel about that?
Well, that is definitely off topic.
Yeah.
So my reaction is, and I've read a few articles about that, and I think my understanding is that when people enter organizations like the Navy SEALs, they make a pledge that it's always about the team and not really to talk about their personal involvement. And so the concern I would have, and I'm not really in a position to sit in judgment of him or anybody else, and I mean they did an incredible job, but my concern is, what impact does it have on your teammates when if everybody thinks we're all in this together and we're all sort of going after the same objective, and it's not about each of us as individuals, but it's about us as a team, and it's about us trying to accomplish our mission together as a team. I'm concerned about what the impact may be on the culture that gets created amongst other folks in the future who have an objective like that. So again, without knowing any of the inside story, all I know about it is what I've read in the press. That's my reaction.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You have any other questions?
How do you plan on upgrading the STEM system?
Well, I think one of the most important things that we can work on, I think the schools are doing some really good work in terms of the science, technology, engineering, and math education. And one of the things that we need to continue to do is to engage the business community so that I want to see more and more students have the opportunity while they're still in school to get out into the workplace and to see what the world of work is all about, and to see how what they're learning about in chemistry or physics or biology or whatever actually applies in the workplace. And one of my favorite examples, I went a few years ago to P.S. DuPont Middle School in the Brandywine School District, and I got to visit, I think it was a 7th grade class of students who were learning in 7th grade about trigonometry, and then they went out and back of the school and they launched rockets, and they got to see how what they were learning in the classroom applies to a real world kind of thing. And so a lot of students learn best with that hands-on kind of opportunity, and we want to make more and more of those happen. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have another question.
Okay.
Where do you think that Delaware students fall on sort of the, I guess, spectrum of excellence as far as students around the United States as a whole? Like, how do you think we compare, and do you think we can compete with the top students from around the nation?
Well, I absolutely believe that we can. There's a factual answer to your question, which is, based on what's something called the National Assessment of Educational Progress. It's a nationwide assessment that's given each year. And the answer to your question is that on average, Delaware students are sort of in the middle of the pack. That is the factual answer, and we're working very hard to try to change that over time. I don't have any question that our best students can compare very favorably with the best around the country. But a lot of what is driving the work that's going on in education around Delaware is to focus on that issue. And so a few of the examples. Have you guys heard of the Common Core standards?
Yes.
So, there's a lot of anxiety about them, but I do think generally the idea of adopting higher standards for our students is the right thing. And I'll give you an example. So on that test, Massachusetts, year in and year out, scores amongst the very top. Well, about 20 years ago, Massachusetts, sort of on their own, decided to adopt higher standards. And so they work. When they're implemented well, they work, and we've got to make sure that they're implemented well. So that's one example. The work, I don't know if you know, but your teachers all participate in these things called PLCs, which stands for Professional Learning Community. They each meet for 45 or 90 minutes a week with their peers, and they have an opportunity to sit down and to look at what the data is telling them about student achievement. And it's a great opportunity for them to learn from each other and to focus on specific students and think about what is it that we can do differently and better to help these students learn. And a lot of the teachers that I've talked to have said this is some of the best opportunities they have to develop professionally. So that's another kind of thing that we're doing. So I think there's a lot that's being done. There's a lot of pressure on these days on the education system, and we're very aware of that. But I think it is important that we continue to get better and better, because other countries around the world are getting better and better. And we want you guys to have as many opportunities as you can possibly have. Anybody else?
Just a quick question, but did you play any sports when you were younger?
I did.
What sports did you play?
Well, I didn't play any of them very well, but I played baseball, and I played soccer, and I played basketball, and I played tennis. And but the one that I played best, believe it or not, was table tennis. I was a fierce table tennis player, and we still have a table in our basement, and my son and I still play. Actually played on my college team, and it was a 6-person team, and I was number 6 out of those 6, and it was there was a big difference between number 5 and number 6. So yeah. Anybody else?
What university did you attend?
I went to Brown University, which is up in Providence, Rhode Island, and I loved it a lot. But my view is definitely, and this is also to your question about what advice do I give about to my kids about college. I am absolutely convinced that no matter where you go, what you get out of it is totally a function of what you put into it. You can get an excellent education at any of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of colleges or universities across the country if you put your effort into it. If you get to a fantastic university and you're going through the motions and you're not taking it that seriously, you might get a degree, but you will have just wasted a whole lot of money and a whole lot of time. And that being said, if you go to a place that is maybe less prestigious, but you work really hard and you engage with your professors and you ask a lot of good questions and you do the assigned work and you go beyond the assigned work, you're going to get a great education, and it's going to put you in a great position for the future. So I think one of the most important things is to really engage yourself and work as hard as you can. What else?
As someone who went to a top-tier school like Brown, did you find that was very stressful for you as a college student, or did you feel that you could handle the workload of a school like that easily? Well,
I worked hard, and I handled it fine. I wouldn't say that I exactly. I was not at the top of my class. I'll put it like that. But I wasn't. I did well. I wish I had. Done better. I got a bunch of B's that I wish I had done better. But I worked hard and I was engaged, And I really tried to connect the dots. And what I mean by that is I tried to find job experiences during the summer that were related to what I was doing. I read some extra materials and the like. So, but anyway, I really appreciate the opportunity to be with all of you today. You guys were a great group of panelists for me, and I think you added a lot to the conversation. I wish you the very best of luck in your junior year and in your senior years. And I can tell just by virtue of this conversation that you're all going to go and do great things. So good luck to all of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thanks for having us today on the forum.